Welcome to the Karen Kenney Show.
Hey, welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. I'm so happy to be here with you this morning, and I am recording this sucker like bright and early. This might be my first time ever recording a sucker like as soon as I get up in the morning. So this is kind of fun. I love having a new experience. We're just going to dive right into this. I'm calling this sucker like your board of directors. And the idea came from I have a friend who runs I don't even want to say a program, but she has a lot of different aspects to her business, and one of them requires that she has a board of directors. And I remember when I first met her and we were talking about all the different things she does, and she kept saying the board of directors, the board of directors, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like you have a board of directors? And because I've never been in like corporate world, I don't think I've ever worked for a nonprofit or whatever. I'm fascinated by this idea of a board of directors. Now, a board of directors normally, and I had to look this up because I'm like, I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to corporate, but basically, a board of directors when it comes to business and all that stuff, what they do, these people, is they provide high level oversight of a company. So they hire and evaluate the CEO. They look out for obviously the shareholder interest. They approve, right? You have to go to them to approve, like if you have strategic goals and your budgets, and they set policies, and they basically make sure that the organization isn't doing anything illegal. They try to have financial compliance, ethical, compliance, all those things. So they aren't involved in like the day-to-day, like on the ground operations, but they kind of like oversee, they're like an oversight board, and they provide guidance, and they, try to make sure that the company is running well, and it has its long-term best interests at heart. Okay. So like that's kind of what they do. So their key responsibilities are things like representing the shareholders, compliance, risk management, financial oversight, executive leadership, and strategic direction, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, that's cool. I understand how that works for a business, especially like a big corporation that has a wicked lot of, employees and people that they have to answer to and blah, blah, blah. But then I was thinking about how cool it would be to have a personal board of directors. And I realized kind of how I already have a personal board of directors. Now, if you've ever listened to this show for any length of time, or you follow me on social media, or you've been to my events or worked with me, blah, blah, blah. If you're in the nest or did, one-to-one mentoring, you have heard me talk about your spiritual team. You'll hear me say STOTJ, spiritual team on the job, right? I always stick my hand up and I go STOTJ. And I believe that my spiritual team has saved my ass more than once. But and if you don't know what I'm talking about with the spiritual team, you can go and like look up that episode, or go to my website and get the freebie like download about like spiritual teams and how to build your spiritual team. But your spiritual team can be made up of people, both living and dead. It can be made up of mythological people. It can be made up of animals. It can be made up of your ancestors. It can be made up of fictional characters, like playing a role. It's like it's a lot more kind of broad in its scope, and it's more. I think of it like they are part of my internal guidance system, right? And that's fantastic. And it's amazing. And like I said, it has helped me all throughout my life. When I'm talking about a personal board of directors, though, this involves like people who are actually alive. Now, remember, people can be alive and be on your spiritual team, but this is only made up of people who are like real in the world, like human. You can communicate with them or whatever. And when I was thinking about this, I thought, how cool is it to have like people? And let me just kind of like break it down how I think about a personal board of directors as opposed to an executive, like a professional, like in your career kind of life. So a personal board of directors is more like a group of people that you curate, that you choose. And I'll kind of break down what I think is helpful to have and like kind of how this works if this interests you. And you might realize all along like that you kind of already have this kind of thing going on. You just might call it something different. You know what I mean? So it's like a curated group of like your mentors, your advisors, and peers who provide for you certain things. Like they might provide to you like just built-in accountability. They might provide for you guidance on particular things, right? They might provide for you diverse perspectives on a thing, but they help you to navigate your personal life. And of course, that you can also enlist them to help you navigate your professional life. But unlike like a corporate board, what this is more for like when you're trying to make a decision or you're on a personal growth journey or a transformational like journey. And some of the elements though that are really key here, and I'm going to break those down in a minute. But we want, like I said, we want this. And if you don't like the word, I should say this, if you don't like the term like board of directors, I also wrote down some others. I'm like, you could call them your board of trustees. You could call them your executive board. You can call them your governing committee, your supervisory board, whatever you want to call it. Come up with a fun name. I really love naming things. So I'm like, come up with a name that like really works for you. A lot of times, the people who I would consider on my personal board of directors, I'll often say to them, I want to ping pong some things with you, right? I want to brainstorm a couple of things with you. I have this idea. This is what I'm thinking, and I would love your perspective. And that's really what I'm personally looking for is a broader perspective on a thing. And this is why when you choose, and I wrote down some things here about what I think is really important. And you know, when I Googled this concept of like a personal board of directors, here's some of the things that I'll just tell you the internet said, right? That who should be on your personal board. They say things like this. There should be diversity. Like you want to seek out people with a wide range of backgrounds. You want them to have diverse roles so that they can fill different elements or functions within your life. And then I thought these were kind of cute. They suggested having a chair, right? Somebody who holds the chair of values. So this is someone who helps you to stay true to your ethical principles. And it's interesting because in the Nest, my group mentoring program, like I have these kind of 12 modules, and one of them is called your big three, and it's about your three big core values. And of course you can have more core values, but we kind of start with those three that really kind of anchor you and help you to stay true to like who you are and who you want to be in the world. So I really appreciated this one. And then they said the CFO of energy. I thought this was really interesting. A steward of your time, your health, and your emotional energy. So you're starting to see how the people on your board of directors might fulfill different roles, right? And then you have a strategy director. This is someone who is a very strategic thinker, and they help you to define your long-term goals and then stay on track with those suckers, right? And then there's the risk officer of growth. And this is someone who helps you to assess like potential pitfalls when you're starting a new venture or doing a new big and exciting thing, or you're thinking about taking on, risk of some kind. And then it's like your accountability partner. And this is a trusted peer or confidant who holds you accountable for your actions. So you can see how it could look different. And it could be kind of fun when you're doing this. Now, you might be somebody who says, well, I already have that kind of built into my life. And I'm like, if you do, that's amazing. I have this built into my life. I basically, like my board of directors, number one is me. I'm the head honcho, right? Call that I don't really relate to language like the CEO, but maybe that's the language you like. But like I'm the head honcho, like I'm the one in charge, right, of things. And Yes, I will always draw upon my internal teacher. Like that's a part of me, right? That divine intelligence, whether you call it spirit, Holy Spirit, some people might call it, I call it internal teacher, inner teacher. Some people might also call it your intuition, your instinct, whatever. All of that already resides within me as the head honcho. You know what I mean? But then if you're going to build your personal board, here are some of the things that I would recommend or that I look for in my own experience, because again, that's the only thing I can really talk about with any sort of intelligence or, proof of like real, like firsthand, real deal experience. Um, is that for like first of all, I'm looking for people that have diverse experience, who have diverse talents, that they're just diverse in their perspectives, right? It's like, and this could be like all kinds of things. They come from different backgrounds, they come from different points of view. Somebody might be male, female, gay, straight, in corporate, right? Or somebody who's always just been like an employee, or somebody who, like, whatever it is. Like, I like to have people that can come at things from a slightly different point of view. I kind of think of it like this kaleidoscope effect. And now, one of the key points with that, though, is that if you're getting people who are going to give you a bunch of different advice, for some people that can feel a little overwhelming to you in your nervous system. It can feel like, oh, everybody's saying all these different things. So we want to be mindful about that. When I say diverse, it doesn't also mean that you want to overcomplicate it and get overwhelmed. Okay. So here are some of the things that I would use to build a personal board of directors. Number one, they're elected by you. Like, you choose these suckers, right? Because sometimes we can have people in our life who try to give us advice without us even asking. Oh my God, I'm just grabbing my face. People who will just offer up what they think you should do, and your brain is going, I don't remember even asking you, but okay, like whatever. And look, I'm sure I do it too. We just like to be helpful, and sometimes we hear somebody's in a conflict or going through something, and you unsolicited advice, or you start coaching them and whatever. I try to be really mindful of that. I'm sure sometimes some shit slips through my mouth, and I'm like, oh, and then later I realize, I don't think you were actually asking me for my opinion, but we do our best. But number one, we want them to be elected by you. Now, of course, they have to be willing to be on your board of directors, right? And you can even ask them. You can just say, hey, I would love to include you, like kind of make it official. I think there's something really cool about that. And I think even just asking them, they'll feel probably, I don't know if I want to say flattered, but feel honored. They'll be like, oh, thank you so much. And what we're doing is, when we ask these people, don't ask your average friggin' knucklehead. You know what I mean? Like, don't ask, like, be choosy, like, be particular, right? So we want to like choose people that there's something about their character, there's something about the qualities they possess, and there's something about their experience, right? Their lived experience, that you admire. That's number one. You elect them, they have to be willing to do it, but you're choosing them based on these qualities of character, and experience, lived experience, that you admire. Okay, this next one, number two, is wicked important. First of all, you have to trust them. It has to be a relationship that is kind of like built in this place of trust. And the trust is what's going to allow for safety. And when there's trust and safety, and that can look like a feeling of like all parts of you are welcome. All parts of you are welcome in your relationship with them, right? That you have a sense of trust, that they're not going to try to hurt you, harm you, belittle you, whatever. And that allows you and your nervous system to experience some sort of safety. Why that's important is because that allows you to show up with an open mind and with your dukes down, right? You don't have your defenses up. As soon as the defenses go up and the critical voice comes online because you don't feel safe, then creativity goes out the window, right? So we want to be able to stay in a place where you're open and you're creative and you're curious, and trust and safety are a big part of that. Okay, for me, I would also look for mutual respect. Meaning, not only do you respect them, because it can be really easy to give your power away and put people up on a pedestal and be like, oh, they're the almighty knowing guru, like they're the like, they know everything. And you just kind of give away your power. And I never want you to do that because I want you to be able to retain the ability kind of to reject advice if it's not like in alignment with you or your values, right? And stuff like that. You want the respect to flow both ways, that you respect them and that you're highly aware that they also respect you and your agency, your autonomy, your sovereignty, your authorship, your ability to make good decisions. So we want mutual respect. That really is a big deal because if there's somebody that we respect, but we feel like they don't respect us, then the way they talk to us, the way they treat us, in the long run, it could lead to feelings of like shame and blame and guilt and all kinds of weird shit that we don't want to do. Okay, number 4. For me, I want there to be a foundation of familiarity. I want people who already really get me, to the best of their ability, right? Who understand me and who understand my goals, my vision, my dream, what I'm trying to accomplish. I don't want to have to explain myself or give like an hour of backstory every time I talk to them. I want them to kind of already know where I'm coming from, where I came from, like who I am, what matters to me. So that, like, for example, let's just say I'm totally pulling this out of my ass and making this up. But, being a vegan for like 25 years, like loving animals, respecting animals' rights, never wanting to harm them, da 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 da. If somebody doesn't know that about me, if they don't know how what a big part of my life animals are or whatever, they might make some, I'm again making this up, but they might make some recommendations and in my brain I would just be like, I'm not going to go to that rodeo. I'm not going to go to that pig roast to network. I wouldn't go and like buy this leather XY, like whatever the thing is, right? And so you want people to at least really get the core basics of like who you are and what matters to you. You know what I mean? So a foundation of familiarity. And like I said, that was just like a random example, but you want them to understand you and the way that you tend to think and the way that you tend to process. And are you somebody who's not a risk taker? Are you somebody who kind of does things a little fast and furious and, sometimes need to be reined in, right? Like we want them to kind of like know us. So familiarity is important. But familiarity without contempt. Not so much familiarity that they've put you in a box, which can happen a lot with family members and siblings and people you came up with, right? They're too familiar with you. And so they're not able to see you as the person you have grown to become and are still becoming. So familiarity, but without contempt. Okay, that's an important thing. Also, genuine care. So this is number 5, all right? So genuine care. For you, you want people who actually want you to succeed in life, want you to succeed in your relationships, in your friendships, in your business, in your marriage. You know what I mean? In your craft, whether you're a musician or a writer or a dancer or a speaker or whatever you do, right? You want people as a coach, right? You want people who want you to actually succeed, that there's not this weird competition, that there's not this like weird envy or jealousy that kind of puts a cog in the wheel and that can feel sometimes like, oh, now they're starting to give me advice. It just feels like, or just they're making offhanded comments or backhanded compliments or whatever. If that energy starts to get like weird, right, then trust and safety like goes out the window and it's going to be like, no, 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 no. So you want people who are, confident enough in their own success and in who they are that they don't get weird about seeing their friends shine or seeing their friends grow or seeing their friends have success, whether it's personal or professional. We want people who genuinely care about us. We also want number six, like to understand communication styles. We want to have people that give feedback, right? That can give feedback to us in a way that we can actually hear. We want people who know how to give loving feedback, who know how to lead with your strengths. Yes, there's always going to come a time when it might be like, hey, and there's a big difference between saying, well, you shouldn't have done that. Like that was stupid. Versus, have you considered? I was thinking about this and I got curious about this. What do you think? Or whatever, right? Their communication styles. Now, personally, sometimes I really love compassionate, loving feedback. And I also want people who sometimes get to the point, who are direct. And I call it loving but firm, right? Like I can do well with loving but firm because there's a part of me that's like, don't fucking tiptoe around this, right? Like tell me what you're thinking. I want to know what you're thinking. Like don't be mean. Don't be mean. Watch your tone of voice because with me, it's not always necessarily what you say, it's how you say it. Right? I know sometimes people have to say difficult or tough things to us, but if I know that there's already trust and safety, if I know that you respect me, if I know that you get me and my story and my backstory and who I am and where I'm coming from, and you genuinely care about me, then I can hear pretty much anything. You know what I'm saying? So we want people who have communication styles that jive with us, that work with us. You know what I mean? And then here's another thing, and this is kind of like on you. This is number 7 is responsibility and preparation. If you are going to ask people to give you some of their precious time, time is a commodity, like time and attention is a really big deal. So for me, if I'm going to ask somebody to hop on a Zoom, like so I can ping pong something off of them, or I can brainstorm, or to vox something out with me, which I often do with one of my board of directors, right? With somebody who's on my board of directors. I'm not going to waste anybody's time. Like, don't waste anybody's fucking time today. You know what I mean? Like, show up prepared. Show up prepared and say, like, yeah, these are the 3 things I want to talk about. I just want to get your point of view, your reflection, your feedback, your thoughts, whatever it is. Like, just don't waste people's time. So, because here's what it is. If it's important enough for you to try and use their time, it better be important enough to you that you sat down and got your work done, that you prepared, that you showed up and like you're ready to go. Um, and so these are like kind of the basics. And look, I could probably name like another 5 or 6 or whatever, but this is kind of like the heartbeat of it. And I'm going to just re-say them quickly to you. Number 1, they're elected by you, obviously with their willingness to participate, right? You're looking for people with characters and qualities and experience that you admire. Number 2, that there's trust and safety between the 2 of you so that you and your nervous system can fully show up in a relaxed, calm, with clarity, with confidence, with curiosity, that you're not going into it defensive with your dukes up in fear with that critical voice, like, talking really loud in your head. Mutual respect that flows both ways. I think that's a given. A foundation of familiarity is number 4, right? So number 1, elected by you. Number 2, trust and safety. Number 3, mutual respect. Number 4, foundation of familiarity. They understand you. They understand your goals and your vision and kind of what you're doing. Number 5, there is genuine care between you. There's no weird competition or jealousy. These are people who cheerlead you, who want you to succeed. They believe in you. You know what I mean? They think you're the bee's knees and the cat's pajamas. 6, communication styles. They're not going to come at you fast and furious and make you kind of like shrink up and go, oh no, right? And you can actually like talk about this like, hey, guys, just so you know, the way that I tend to receive information, I can be a little sensitive, I prefer to hear things like this way because I want to hear what you have to say, but I want to hear it in a way that I can hear it. And number 7, your own responsibility and preparation. If you're going to ask for people's time, don't waste their time. Don't waste your time, right? If it matters to you, make it matter. You know what I'm saying? Something else to remember is that you can appoint these people and you can retire these people. If you're like, it doesn't feel like a great fit anymore, or I'm kind of moving in this direction, or maybe the relationship kind of falls apart or things get weird. And then you can also reappoint them. Like, let's say later down the road, you're like, oh, yeah, like I want to bring them back on board. Now, remember, they have to be willing, like, to do this as well. So we want a good, diverse range of experience, of talent, of perspectives, of just even human beings. That maybe they come from different, like, walks of life. And I know for myself, I don't really go seeking a lot of advice. I tend to be like I always say, like the first quote unquote person, the first thing I talk to, the first being I talk to is God, is the universe, is the highest intelligence that it is. And I say things like, please help me to get out of my own way. Please help me to hear any divine guidance that is trying to come through me. And I really kind of sit. For me, that's the first thing, is spiritual direction, spiritual mentorship. That's where I go first. And then I talk to myself. Like, I trust myself. I trust my inner teacher. I trust my instinct. But there are times when I'm like, I'm not sure. Because sometimes when you maybe want something really bad, or you're really like focused on a certain timeline or whatever, you kind of put on blinders, right? You end up having a blind spot. And sometimes we have a blind spot to the actual thing that we're trying to build, but sometimes we have a blind spot to our own bullshit and like the ways that maybe we're not dreaming. Like for me, one of the things I often need help with is allowing myself to dream bigger. Sometimes I don't dream big enough, right? Like sometimes I'll put a little kibosh on my own, not so much momentum, but like what I think is possible, which is really interesting because for other people, I just think everything is possible. Like, oh my God, like, oh my God, there's so much capacity and potential and the miraculous, and like anything could happen. The universe is conspiring in our favor and da 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 da. And then sometimes towards myself, I shrink it down a little bit. So that's a muscle I've been trying to grow for like a long time. And my board of directors really helps me. They'll remind me when I say, well, if this happens, they say, not if, when, right? My best friend, KT, who's on my board of directors, she always is saying to me, it's not if, it's when. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got to watch that language. I got to watch that language. You know what I mean? So we want people who are going to help us in the ways where we might get in our own way. And we sometimes will, again, not think big enough. Or sometimes we're thinking way too big and we need somebody to say, hey, 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 let's slow down. Let's let's plan this out. Like, let's take this like step 1, step 2, step 3. And, and that's the thing. You want like really like maybe like big dreamers. And then you want somebody who's a little more practical, and you want somebody who's really good at looking at the numbers, and you want somebody who's really good at looking like at your own emotional capacity, like reminding you like, hey, you have a pretty busy schedule. Is this really the month to try and like do all the things, right? And like start a new thing and stop a habit and start a new habit and go back to the gym and do all this when you've got X, Y, and Z. Because sometimes we just, oh, God bless us. Sometimes we just need a little help. I know this to be true because I wouldn't be in business if people didn't need help, right? I wouldn't be in the spiritual mentoring and the coaching and the, quote unquote, helping business, in the service business if people didn't need help. And I just think having this in your own personal life could be really cool. And I think there's something really fun about sitting down, because you know why? You get to sit down and really reflect on the people that you're surrounding yourselves with. You get to sit down and take a gander, take a good look around. And it allows you to have, how do I say this? Moments of appreciation, deep, deep moments of gratitude, kind of moments of wonder and awe. You get to look around and be like, wow, I know some pretty incredible human beings. I know some people with some talents and strengths that I don't have. I have people also, you get to see that you have people in your corner, people who believe in you, people who love you, people who want to help you succeed. It's a beautiful, beautiful practice. And even if you don't take it so far as to make it official and make it like, oh yeah, this is my board of directors, and do you want to be on my board of directors? You don't like, some people might be like, that's awkward. Can I just go to them for advice? I'm like, yeah, but this is just kind of a fun way to stop and reflect on some of the incredible humans in your life. And even if you don't, like, again, make it official, maybe what you could do is when you recognize these beautiful human beings, these helpers, these people who care for you and create trust and safety in your life, and provide a level of care and a strong foundation for you to stand on and launch yourself from, like from their love. And that's the thing, I think about the thing that Mr. Rogers says. He's like, we've all had people who have loved us. We have someone who has loved us into being. And this is what I think about your board of directors. Like, as these are often people who have, throughout our life, loved us into being. And even if you don't make them official board members, maybe send them a little thank you note, like literally your own handwriting, like write out a card, send it in the mail, and let them know that they've had an impact on your life. And maybe you want to make it official. Like, I kind of think of it like, I did an episode a wicked long time ago called like, Who's at Your Table? And I was talking about, King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, and who has a seat at your table? Like, who do you trust? That's kind of like what the board of directors are. And that's how I would think of it, is more like the Knights of the Round Table, like who has a seat at my table? And I can, off the top of my head, I can already tell you, like, I know who my board of directors are. I know who my Knights of the Round Table are. That's how I like to look at it, because I'm a little geeky and I love Merlin and I love magic and I love the whole thing. So like I said, you get to make it your own, call it whatever you want to call it. And I just, whenever I think about this, I have deep gratitude for the people in my life who love me and see me and get me. And I can just vox them and say, hey, I have an idea. Can I bounce this off of you? Or, hey, can you ping pong this back to me? Like, am I seeing this correctly? Or where do I have a blind spot? Or where am I getting in my own way? And I'm so blessed to have, a few people that I really, really, really trust. And I know that when something good happens for me, they genuinely celebrate. They're happy for me. And that's like a rare thing, you guys. Yeah, you can often get it. Not always do you get it from your family members, or if your parents are still alive, right? Whatever. Especially if you grew up in a house where to shine meant that other people felt like they were in your shadow. So they're not into that, right? You know what I mean? A lot of times people don't want you to get too quote unquote big for your britches. They don't want you. Who do you think you are, right? They don't want to celebrate your success. Your personal growth is a threat to them, right? They take it as almost like an affront to them. Like, they take it like you just doing well feels like a judgment to them. Like, you stop or start doing a thing, they take it personally. It's like, this isn't about you, right? It's not about a commentary on you. This is about me and what I'm trying to create. You know what I mean? But remember, you're the head honcho. You're the CEO. You're at the head of the table, right? Like, this is your board of directors. So again, you can appoint, you can retire, you can reappoint people, you can change it up. And you might have people that you go to. You might have people that you go to for just specific things, because you're like, this is their area of expertise. It's like, oh yeah, this is the person that I talk to, when I know I'm getting in my own way, when I need a little kick in the ass, loving but firm. You know what I mean? I talk about my spiritual team and how there's like a couple of what I call ass kickers on my spiritual team. So there are certain people that are going to give it to you straight. Now, here's the tricky part. This is one caveat. This is something that where you really have to know yourself. I see this a lot in groups of friends, right? What you don't want is to have a lot of yes people, right? Quote unquote, yes people. You don't want people like, how do I say this? I know people who might be doing something in their life, and whether it's an actual physical action or a thought process that they're having when they're really in their victim loop, or they're shaming and blaming other people, making other, like, they are just not, this is what I call refusing to accept responsibility for your own experience and your own, life and how you're responding to the world. And a lot of times what they'll do is they already have particular feedback that they want to receive. They already have an outcome in mind, and they're not actually looking for diverse perspectives. They're not looking for any pushback, any follow-up questions, any feedback. They just want to go to that group of people, right? I can just say this from a perspective of I've seen groups of women who like get together with their wine. And this is not, I'm not judging, I'm just giving an example. It's an observation, right? They get together with their wine and all they do is bitch and moan about their partners, their husbands, their sweeties, whatever it is. And it's just like, yeah, you're right. He shouldn't do that. Yeah, you're right. She was wrong to do that to you. Yes, 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 yes. You're right. You're right. You're right. I'm not interested in that. That to me, like I always say, that's not interesting to me. I want people who are going to help me to actually grow, who are going to help me to like shift my perspective, right? From fear to love. People who are going to help me to expand my idea of what's possible. To, as I say, we have to be willing to own both our brilliance and our bullshit. And I want people who can lovingly point out to me my bullshit sometimes. So we don't want a group of people who are just going to say like, yes, you're right. Yeah. I'm like, don't agree with me. Don't agree with me if I'm wrong, right? Don't agree with me if I'm being a dick. Don't agree with me if I'm being selfish or short-sighted or I'm cutting myself off at the knees. Like, no, I don't want a bunch of yes people. I want people who are confident enough in their own point of view to offer me a different way of seeing myself, the other person or people, the situation. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I hope this has been helpful in some way. If you do decide to create your own little board of directors, your own little, from my point of view, Knights of the Round Table, like who has a seat at your table? I would love to know. I think it's really fantastic. And I just know for myself, having that little handful of like really trusted advisors, people who I think are genuine and people who I think are wicked smart. And I always say, when smarty pants people are saying smarty pants things, I am smart enough to listen. And it doesn't mean that you have to do what they tell you to do. This is more about gathering perspective so that you can decide what the next right smallest step is. Sometimes it's a big step. Maybe it's the next right big step. But for me, it's about going, it's more about like, and especially the kind of person that I am, and I'm sharing this because it might relate and resonate with you too. Sometimes I'm like, I think this is what I want to do. There's like A and there's B, and sometimes there's A, B, C, right? Or one, two, three. And I will share with somebody else, and they'll say, I think this is what I would do if I was in your shoes, or I think this is what you should do, right? We try not to use the word should, but you know what I'm saying. If it were me, this is what I would do. Or how about this? And a lot of times, them just giving me something else, like giving me an answer back that I can respond to, helps me to make up my mind. Like, for example, I'm the kind of person, like, let's make it as something as simple as what people all over the country probably go through all the time, right? What do you want to have for dinner? Right? And when somebody asks me that, what do you want for dinner? I have the kind of brain that goes like, and like it pans out and it's like, oh my God, I gotta have so many things. It's way easier for me to say or to have somebody say to me, do you want pasta or do you want something else, right? And do you want like like whatever it is. And because in that moment, I will have a strong physical reaction. I will have a strong, like, call it gut reaction or whatever, but my body will go, oh no, and I'll be like, oh, should I have ramen noodles? Or I'm again making this up. Should I have like, and they're vegan. Just assume everything I say is a vegan product, okay? Should I have like a chick patty, not real chicken, a chick patty and rice, or should I have pasta and a salad? And I'm like, I'm kind of leaning towards this. And then my CD will say, well, have that. And as soon as he says it, my body goes, no, I go, I think I'm going to have the other one. And he just laughs. And I explained to him, I literally sat him down and I said, look, I want you to understand. It's not that I don't, and sometimes I do choose and go with the thing that he suggests. But a lot of times I said, you're doing me such a huge service by just throwing something back at me, giving me your opinion back, because it helps me to feel in my body what my hell yes or my hell no is, right? Like my heck yeah, like yeah, and my hell no, right? Like I literally have a visceral reaction. So it's really, really helpful. And sometimes having a board of directors helps you to get more clarity about what you want. So you are not imprisoned by what their suggestions. And you also have to be comfortable enough. Maybe I would add number 8. Like there has to be a level of honesty and a level of comfort that you can say to them, thank you so much for offering your feedback, your opinions, your whatever. This is what I've decided to do. And it might be the total opposite of what they offered. So this is not like the judge and the jury that's saying this is how it has to be. Again, this is a cultivation of meaningful relationships with people who possess qualities again and experiences that you admire, but they are not you. They are not in your shoes, and they will not have to pay the consequences of the decisions that you make, right? So you want to be able to have like maintain your own, again, your own agency, your own autonomy, your authorship, right? Your ability to say like, this is what I've decided, and not be afraid that you're gonna like hurt their feelings or they're gonna get mad at you or whatever. Especially if you're a codependent kind of person, a people pleasing kind of person, a person who doesn't like to hurt other people's feelings. Like up front, there has to be good boundaries where you're like, hey, I'm gonna gather all of this. And then at the end of the day, I'm gonna just decide like what works for me and just really be mindful of people's time, be grateful and thank them verbally or written, right? Acknowledge that they've been helpful, even if you decide to do something different. I could probably go on and on and on and on, but I'm going to stop it right there. I hope this has been helpful to you in some way. If it has, let me know, like send up a flare or whatever. If you did find it helpful, share it with somebody else. I always say, if you found it beneficial and you liked it and you were like, oh, this is interesting or this was good, share it with somebody you love. Like, why not? Spread more love in the world. You know what I mean? That's the whole point of this podcast, is to kind of bring together, like, obviously, like storytelling, spirituality, spiritual principles that we can apply in our day-to-day life that helps us to have less suffering and to spread more love in the world. That's what's going on here. So if you're still listening, thank you so much for being here, for being a part of my community. I super duper appreciate you. I love this chance to get to communicate with you. And as always, I just hope it was helpful in some way. Now, as you move forward into your day and your life, wherever you go, please, may you leave yourself and the animals and the environment and the other people and the planet better than how you first found it, wherever you go. May you, your energy, your presence, your love, your light be a blessing. Bye.